আসসালামু আলাইকুম এভরিওয়ান, ওয়েলকাম টু মুনাস ডায়েরি। আশা করছি আপনারা সবাই অনেক ভালো আছেন। আজকে আমরা যাচ্ছি ক্যামব্রিজের সেন্ট্রাল মস্ক দেখতে। এটার বিশেষত্ব হচ্ছে এটা সম্পূর্ণ ইকো ফ্রেন্ডলি এই জন্যেই কারণ এই মসজিদের বেশিরভাগ কাজই কাঠের দ্বারা তৈরি। এই যে দেখতে পাচ্ছেন আমরা মসজিদের সামনে চলে এসেছি অলরেডি। মসজিদটি দেখতে খুবই সুন্দর। যারা নন মুসলিম আছে তাদের জন্য এই মসজিদটি উন্মুক্ত। কোভিডের কারণে আসলে এখানে অ্যাপয়েন্টমেন্ট নিয়ে আসতে হয়। যাই হোক, আমরা অলরেডি চলে এসেছি। এই যে দেখতে পাচ্ছেন এটা হচ্ছে মসজিদের মেইন গেট। আপনারা দেখতে পাচ্ছেন মসজিদের ভিতরে একজন কালো কোট পরা ব্যক্তি দাঁড়িয়ে আছেন। উনি আজকে আমাদের পুরো মসজিদটি ঘুরিয়ে দেখাবেন আর কোনটা কিভাবে আসলো আর এই মসজিদের কেন ইকো ফ্রেন্ডলি সেটার সম্পর্কে আমাদের ডিটেলসে ধারণা দেবেন। ওই সময়টাতে আরও অনেকেই বুকিং দিয়েছিল মসজিদ ভিজিট করার জন্য, তো আমরা তাদের জন্যই অপেক্ষা করছি। তারা সবাই আসলেই ওই কালো কোট পরা লোকটি আমাদের সব ঘুরিয়ে দেখাবে।
So in the 1840s, the railway came here. So a lot of people were either agricultural workers or worked in the railway. Okay. This road is called Mill Road. So we do have a mosque about half a mile down the road, but that mosque is pretty much full to capacity. We have another 4 mosques in Cambridge, and as the community has grown. The roof. So we have a flat roof on top. So we have about 100 square meters of solar panels. So we use that to light the mosque, especially the ring lighting. So if you have a look up the top, you can see this ring. So those are lights that are not running on mains electricity. We've come from the garden. As you can see, that there's lots of running water. So that water is water that is collected as rainwater from the roof that is used to irrigate the garden, and it's also used to flush the toilets as well. Okay. Also on the roof we have a green sedum garden that also has a cooling effect. But one of the other things we have is we have boxes for migratory birds as well. So I don't know if the kids at school have heard about birds called swifts, S-W-I-F-T, swift. Well, they're diminishing in population across Europe, so they've dropped by about 50% in the last 20 years. And so what we're trying to do is encourage those migratory birds to use those boxes. Now, if any roofs at the top, and this is Gothic architecture. If you like to come in and just take your shoes off and put them on the shoe racks, and then you don't want to have any shoes on the marbled area, so you can put your shoes on any side that you like. Okay?
অরেঞ্জের করে নেবেন নাকি অবশ্যই করে দেবেন।
Let's go. Wait.
I'll ask the children one other question as well.
Aisha.
You know the pieces of wood that make up the mosque, right? There's thousands of pieces of wood, and it's between the answer between 2,000 and 3,000 pieces. So try and think what the number might be. Don't tell me now. We've had the community garden, Islamic garden, and then we've come to the portico. One of the things you'll notice is that we have no lights on. So when they designed the masjid, they wanted to use natural light and rainwater, as I mentioned. So at the moment all of the lights are off. They can be manually or electronically controlled. At the moment we don't need that. So the idea was to try and have lots of glass so that we can maximise the light, especially in the UK where our winter months the sun is very low lying. We're able to use that. Okay, quite busy. But when you close the doors, it's very quiet. Okay. Now, I'd like you to have a look at the walls, if that's okay. So on the wall here, does anyone notice anything on the walls? Yes, you can just shout out. There is a pattern. Can anyone read anything off the pattern?
Allah লেখা
So someone's picked up Allah,
Yeah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so there's Allah here. Okay. So, there are verses in the Quran that you find on the inside of the masjid and on the outside, and it actually reads Qul huwallahu ahad,
Yeah, I can see Qul.
which is say God is one. So you're affirming your faith of the oneness of God. Okay? And it sort of goes around from right to left. So it's Qul huwallahu ahad. You'll find it on the inside of the mosque, you'll find it on the outside of the mosque. There are 212,000 bricks. So these are cladded bricks that had to be inserted in place. And obviously, with the Quran, there cannot be a mistake, so the scholars had to check every single piece of brick to make sure that it reads Qul huwallahu ahad. At the bottom, you can see that the Arabic writing disappears. Okay, so you can't see that. And there's zigzag lines. And those zigzag lines you will find in Victorian railway stations. So if you look at old railway stations, you'll find the zigzag lines on the walls. Okay, so that's part of our Britishness as well, but we want to remember sort of some of our history of where we are also from. So you've got Qul huwallahu ahad around there. You've also got the colour of the walls. So the colour is called Cambridge yellow, which is the same colour as the colleges of Cambridge. So it's called Cambridge Gold, so it's Cambridge yellow. So there isn't anything else. Everything else is wood and timber. If you had found the car park is underground. It's a 76 space car park that runs all the way underneath the mosque. That's the only concrete we've got. Everything else is wood and timber, and then you've got a flat roof on top. So it feels like it's trees with a flat roof. The first mosque that the Prophet ﷺ had was actually trees, which were a grove of trees coming together. So it's trying to remind us of that. Ask me a question. Only unless you've got lots of fire extinguishers and things are in place in order to make sure that that doesn't happen. So there's actually lots of sensors around, so I haven't talked about the technology, but I will a bit later. So as you can see, I mentioned that you've got the ring lighting, but above that, can you see there's some metal grill? There's a metal grill with very, very fine holes in it. Okay. So, if it gets too hot here, the hot air rises and it goes out through those metal grills. Okay? And then cool air gets pumped in through the walls. Now the reason we can do that is because we have something called air source heat pumps. So modern buildings buy about 8 to 10,000 cubic tons of CO2 every single year. So that's one of the most important eco features. Do you want to answer another question? And after that I won't answer any more questions, you can have them all at the end. Sorry? CO2 is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, if you have too much carbon dioxide, it heats up the planet, and therefore that's the reason why you have climate change and global warming. So the idea is to try and reduce that as much as possible, which you'll probably learn either in year 6 or year 7. Okay, but it's a good question. So, now one of the things that's important to remember is your feet. So this is marble floor from Portugal and Spain. Your feet should be cold. But there's sensors on the floor that are based on occupancy control, which means if no one's here, the floor doesn't warm up. Because the floor knows that you're here, because there's sensors, then the floor warms up very slightly. The same happens in the mosque prayer hall area. If there's a small congregation, the carpet will warm slightly, but anywhere else it won't do. And that is also to reduce and minimise the amount of electricity that we use. Okay? So what I will do is I'll just take you to the clock, and then after that we will go to the wash facilities and wooden facilities. Right, so here's the clock. So these are the 5 prayer times, as many of you might know, during the summer months. So for example, on Friday, the congregational prayer Jummah was at 1:15. We still have some social distancing in the building. I'll tell you a little bit about that before we go into the main prayer hall area. And these are the 5 prayers, so Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha. And then you've got the main time there as well. So it's all made of wood. As you probably noticed behind you, there's also a donation box that's also made of wood. So all of the features are about sustainability, about using wood rather than using concrete and rather than using brick. Okay? So what we'll do is get soaked, don't they? Yeah. So there's a really good evaporation here as well. If you come in and have a look at the tiles, these are Turkish tiles donated by a family in Turkey. That's why they're turquoise in colour. Okay. And the sensors are on the taps as well. And one of the good things about the sensors is, I'll just show you very quickly. Towels that you may use in the mosque as well. As you can see, it's a very, very nice area, and it's quite well lit, and it is also quite open. And these plants are also placed here because they like a very humid environment as well. So what we'll do is I will just go out, and if you just follow me, to mention is that we have baby changing facilities in the men's area as well as the women's area, which is really important. So we have people coming in from outside using those facilities as well. Yep. So if maybe if the children can wait outside, if the sisters would like to go in and have a look, the ladies, you can go and have a quick look inside. Just be careful. It's just been cleaned as well, so it has a product smell. You can't go in. Are you enjoying it?
এই মসজিদটিতে মহিলাদের জন্য আলাদা যে স্পেস আছে উজু করার, আমি বেসিক্যালি ওইখানে এসেছি। এর আগে আপনারা যে স্পেসটা দেখেছেন ওইটা হচ্ছে জেন্টসদের জন্য। তো খুবই সুন্দর, এখানের যে প্রত্যেকটা জায়গা দেখতে পাচ্ছেন।
Donation.
Okay, so this is the main prayer hall. I'll just let you have a look around for a few minutes, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the most important features. Okay. So who wants to go in first? You put your hands up first. Come on in. And also it's dominated by these trees, as I mentioned. So one of the effects that the architect wanted to design was that remember when we're in the Islamic garden, you feel like you're outside. You are outside, but you're inside this area, but you still feel like you're outside because it feels like a grove of trees. So essentially it's a grove of trees with a flat roof. And if you look behind you, you can see the Gothic architecture. You can see this is what the cathedrals and churches look like. So it's a combination of them. Now, many of you know about Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims. Because we want to be respectful and accommodate everybody, the Sunni Muslims have 4 imams and Shia Muslims have 12. So 12 plus 4 is 16. And how many trees are there here? There's 16 in total as well. So it's important when you talk about inclusivity, so that's inclusivity for all, you have to demonstrate that as well in your architecture. If you look at the Islamic calligraphy, this was designed by a gentleman called Hussein Kutlu, who's a master of Islamic calligraphy from Turkey. Now he was supposed to come here and actually do the calligraphy on the walls. Because he was unable to, we actually
আমরা এখন মসজিদের যে মূল জায়গা নামাজ পড়ার ওইখানটাতে আছি। এই যে এখানে দাঁড়িয়ে ইমাম সাহেব নামাজ পড়ান। তো এই জায়গাটা আসলে দেখতে খুবই সুন্দর লাগছিল। এই যে ক্যালিগ্রাফিগুলো দেখতে কিন্তু অনেক সুন্দর আপনারা দেখতে পাচ্ছেন। আর এইগুলো সব কিছুই কিন্তু কাঠের উপর খোদাই করা, দেখতে অসম্ভব সুন্দর লাগছিল। আসলে মসজিদ তো এমনি একটা শান্তির জায়গা, গেলে অন্যরকম একটা শান্তি অনুভব হয়, কিন্তু এই জায়গাটা আসলে এত ফ্রেশ, কারণ যেহেতু এটা ইকো বান্ধব আর বাতাসেও একটা ফ্রেশনেস কাজ করে। তো যাই হোক, আমরা দেখতেই পাচ্ছেন এখন আছি মসজিদের ভিতরে। এটা হচ্ছে পেছন সাইডে যেখানে মহিলারা নামাজ পড়েন, ওই সাইড মসজিদের ভিতরের সাইড দেখে এখন আমি বের হয়ে যাচ্ছি। আশা করছি আজকের ভিডিওটি আপনাদের সবার ভালো লেগেছে। ভালো লাগলে অবশ্যই একটা লাইক দিবেন আর সাবস্ক্রাইব করে আমার চ্যানেলের সাথেই থাকবেন। আপনাদের সবার জন্য অনেক দোয়া এবং ভালোবাসা। আল্লাহ হাফেজ।